Who can tell me how many meetings we've had? 13 to 14, 14 to 15. No other touchdown club in America meets as much as we do. You know that? God bless all of you for coming, even after a weekend like this past weekend. For Razorback fans, for OBU fans, you Henderson State fans, you're excited. The rest of us are in mourning, trying to get past this meeting. Thank goodness Ryan McGee is here to give us some comical relief today. Last week, did you guys enjoy Alyssa Lang? Was she not outstanding? Oh, my gosh. What a rising superstar. Ryan, what did you call her? You said she was yours?
My little sister.
Little sister, yeah. What a great job. I know she was at Death Valley LSU this weekend, and so she was great. Today, Ryan McGee is going to be amazing. Listen, we've got one of the premier both writers and TV people in America. I mean, I tell you, if you go back and look at his books, his articles, he is one of the best writers in America. And if you've seen his show with Marty, we had Marty Smith last year. It's one of the most entertaining shows on television. So you're going to enjoy him. You're going to really appreciate what he brings to the table. Then next week, he's a Tennessee guy. I'm just going to tell you, he's a Tennessee guy. Next week, we bring in another Tennessee guy, David Cutcliffe, Tennessee Ole Miss, who was the coach of Eli Manning and Peyton Manning. So that's going to be good. Still working on that touchdown club speaker. We'll figure that out at some point. I'm a little distracted right now. There's a lot going on. But great to have you. So I'm sorry, was it a little cold today? No sweating for me today. No sweating for me. Peyton Manning made fun of how much I was sweating. So we turned it down to 32 today in here in the room. And so take care of that. Great to have everybody here. 50% off on all shirts and sweatshirts. So, somebody said it was a way to sell sweatshirts today. Maybe so. Debbie, it worked. It worked. 50% off all. Do you want to thank Cassie from Hogman's Game Day Superstore for her work and getting our T-shirts and sweatshirts 50% off. Very nice. We appreciate that. We're almost we're basically, Rex, getting into award season. Yep. I'm excited that Ryan is going to be a voter for the Brules Award coming up. He's a new addition to that. Excited. We'll talk about that in a minute. But all of our awards, the Cliff Harris Award, the Harlan Hill Award, all these other awards will be happening here in the next few days. Matter of fact, Judy, by the way, Corey Ballantyne, one of our winners of the Cliff Harris Award years ago, starting for the Green Bay Packers this weekend. Kyle Duggar starting for the New England Patriots, all Division II. Tyson Bagent, obviously the Harlan Hill Award winner a few years ago. He's getting exposure on national TV. So what we're doing here, we're recognizing, players all over the country, not just, the FBS level, but Division II as well. So we're excited about that. We got some special guests here we'll announce a little bit later. Don't forget the Brules Award is December 5th, coming up right around the corner. This time we want to go ahead and bring up Chuck Monan, the pigskin preacher, who even without a head coach for his Michigan Wolverines, they just keep winning. It doesn't matter. Give it up for pigskin preacher, everybody.
Ryan, we've been looking forward to you being here for a long time. Every Saturday for years, I begin my day with waiting for the Waylon Jennings song and say, it's time for Marty and McGee. So we're glad that you're here, my man. Appreciate you. Let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for this gathering. We're grateful for the food that you provide, for the health that we enjoy. We're thankful to be among friends, and we pray for the continued good of this city and our world. And Father, we're thankful that Ryan could be here today, and we pray your blessings upon him and his family while he's away from them. Be with us in this time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
So Chuck had services at the new location. So how did everything go the last couple of weeks?
Good. We had 476.
Wow, 476. How about that? A growing church. Give it up for Chuck Monan, pigskin preacher. Pinnacle Church of Christ. Come on, everybody, if you can, mute your phones. Ryan, one of the things we do at the Touchdown Club here, we pride ourselves on that we try to give everybody as much access to this programming today as anybody in the country. So we're going to be live with 103.7 The Buzz when you get up here with me a little bit later. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those will live stream all the comments from Ryan today. So that's the effort we make to make sure and provide for folks who can't be here today. We appreciate you being here today, but if you can, mute your phone for us so that way we don't have any interruptions. And let's thank our kind sponsors as we've done for all these weeks. 103.7 The Buzz, Justin Acree, Wes Moore, Roger Scott, Justin Moore, our sales staff, Terry Mahan, CEO. Thank you for 103.7 The Buzz and their support. AY Media, AY Magazine, Arkansas Money and Politics, Heather Baker. Thank you so much, Heather, for your support of the Touchdown Club every week. You've been great. The Hatcher Agency, Twin City Limo, Greg Hatcher, Popeye, you guys do a great job. Picked up Ryan last night late. He got in here about 9:30. Popeye, thank you for taking care of him with West Sutton. War Memorial Stadium. I didn't see who won. I need to have that for the radio show tomorrow. Who won the high school band state championship last weekend?
I saw the list.
So you had that, and then you had the vets. You had the vets and veterans event Saturday at War Memorial. What a cool event that was! And then you got state playoffs happening now, coming up soon here at War Memorial Stadium. So. Exactly. Thank you to War Memorial Stadium, John Latch, the GM there. Thank you so much. Arkansas Urology, Chris Shinup, Scott Davis. Don't forget, third annual beard bracket with 103.7 The Buzz. Guys, submit. If you got a good beard, submit it. Winner gets a. I don't know what it is about guys and big flat screens. But if you win with the best beard, you get a 70-inch flat screen. Is that just something, Ryan, is that just something that we like? We give us flat screen. Give us meat, give us flat screen.
Bigger the better.
The bigger the better. That's exactly right. We appreciate Arkansas Urology. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis, Stephen Riker. Thank you, Todd, so much for your support week after week. We appreciate you. Give them a chance to quote you on any of your insurance needs. Appreciate them. Dairy Queen, Blake and Nelson Lively, Todd Denton. Rex, it's the Backyard Bacon Ranch Signature Stack Burger that they're featuring this week. Quarter-pound double beef patties topped with house-made Hidden Valley Ranch dressing, honey barbecue sauce, crispy golden onion rings, applewood smoked bacon, 2 slices of perfectly melted white cheddar served on a soft and toasted bun. Rex says he's getting 2. I like it. Simmons Bank Arena, is Michael Marion here today? We have to have a moment of silence for Michael Marion. So Ryan, he is the GM for Simmons Bank Arena, has been for 20 years. He's a huge Mississippi State fan. And so it's the only, Roger on our show today mentioned, it's the only game in the history of college football where 2 coaches were fired the following week. Both of them. Even the winning coach got fired. How crazy of a stat is that? But we appreciate Michael Marion. Don't forget, just announced today, Chicago and Earth, Wind & Fire Heart and Soul Tour, August 26, 2024. Tickets go on sale November 17th. That's going to be 2 good concerts. 2 good groups. I'd love to go see that. Summerwood Sports, the most amazing new sports facility in Arkansas, located in Bryant. Check them out online, summerwoodsports.com. We appreciate the Hendricks family supporting the Touchdown Club week after week. Same thing with Advantage Service Company, Kevin Brooks. One call does it all, 35 years in the business. We appreciate them. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Today we're joined by Devontae Jones and Troy Price, members of their Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings labor and employment team. Listen, you name it, medical marijuana in the workplace, internal investigations, everyday workplace matters, they can handle it all. Stuff that I don't want to deal with, but I call you when I need the help. So Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, thank you guys for being here today. We appreciate the support of Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette, is always great to be in the press box, even when we lose, with old Wally Hall. And we thank him. We thank Amanda for your effort with our All Arkansas Preps. We've got a winner from Heber Springs. It was an hour and a half driving down here. How about that? He and his family drove an hour and a half to be here today. So that shows you how much they respect the Touchdown Club. And I told him, I said, did you get out of school today? He said, yes. Yes. That's what we want to have happen. I'm with you. I'm supporting the student athlete. Get out of school if you can. So thank you to the Democrat Gazette. Is that right? Is that wrong for me to say that? Just being honest. Just being honest. Crane Automotive. Appreciate Crane Automotive. So, by the way, Christian Crane was one of the big supporters of the NIL event that I emceed the other night. That's what we do now. So, Ryan, I emceed an event in Fayetteville where Justin Moore, who's a co-host on our show, performed for free with Joe Nichols and Tyler Kench to raise money for their NIL fund. And so that's the things we do today. And so Christian Crane was a sponsor with Crane Automotive. And although after Saturday, I'm not going to say it anyway. But that's what you have to do. And so appreciate guys like Christian Crane supporting the university and appreciate the great job they do in supporting the club. Sissy's Log Cabin. I'm afraid to tell you, Ryan, that last week, Alyssa Lane got a really nice piece of jewelry from Sissy's. I don't see a blue bag in front of your seat for some reason today. So she got a really nice, maybe we should do that to take to the wives and Jim Englehorn, Bill Jones. Anyway, we appreciate Sissy's. They do an amazing job. Bill is a big supporter of Arkansas sports in all colleges. And Jim Englehorn, thank you for your support. Double B's owner Steve Lytle and GM Ed Light. I appreciate them. 30 locations. They've been in business for 50 years. Gas it, grab it, and go. It's Doublebee's. Oakland Sports App. You guys know I was 20-7 going into last week in my picks for the last 4 weeks. In college, 4-2, 4 out of 6 right. NFL, not so much. I was 2-2 with tonight being the decider. Denver at Buffalo, so I feel good about it. So if you've never been on the Oakland Sports App, give it a try. It's a lot of fun. You can bet $1. You can bet $5 or $10. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and appreciate Zach Gillum and everybody. There's Zach over there. Appreciate Zach. Not bad. Not bad. They're not going to call me Jimmy the Greek, but I'm getting there, right? But anyway, appreciate Oakland and Oakland Sports App for sponsoring the Touchdown Club. Last but not least, Simmons Bank. We got Pat Anderson and Jason Culpepper. I was telling Ryan the amazing success story of Simmons Bank, an Arkansas bank that started in the early 1900s with $3,000, now up to $26 billion in 6 different states. But they still love Arkansas. And you know, one of the great compliments that Pat just mentioned, I don't know if you guys know this. So remember when Simmons bought Metropolitan Bank? It was a big deal at that time because that really helped Simmons grow. But one of their most important things was getting the Little Rock Touchdown Club from Metropolitan. And so I don't know if you guys know this, but I had 4 or 5 banks that wanted to get the sponsorship of this. They really wanted it. And Pat, you mentioned that was something that was really important to Simmons in the growth. So I'd like to say, can we get a profit sharing maybe from future earnings of just joking. No, but Simmons Bank has been the most unbelievable presenting sponsor in America. Nobody's better. We got the best group of sponsors in America. Let's give all of them a round of applause if you can. Ron, we have the best group of volunteers in the country. Appreciate Lakia and Nita with a double tree. Dwayne Duncan, photography for over 10 years. Matt Johnson, M&M Productions, handling all our AV needs. He's been with us. Nobody better in the business than him. Chris Kane, where's Chris? Chris is over here with Delta Solar. He's the future of our club. If something happens to me in Rex, that's the guy. So I'm just telling you, that's the guy. Along with RJ, who's not here today, and Meredith Hale from Cartile. We appreciate Meredith's support as well. Vine's Brookshire Agency, doing all our social media. Rex, of course, what he does. This will be his last weekend recap because next week with the Ken Hatfield Award, which is really a cool deal. If you haven't been to that, you need to come. We honor 12 to 14 outstanding young men who maybe they don't always get the attention. But Rex is going to forego his introduction. So today is the last one, but having Rex each week has been amazing. And I want to do this real quick. We haven't done this all year. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge all the ladies, who check everybody in, get tickets at the door, all the guys who set up all these things are set up before the meeting. So I want you to hold your applause. I want all these folks that are here to stand. We're going to start with Marilyn Miller, who's not here, but she was here with us 2004, 19 years ago. Sherry Hall, Elizabeth Cloxton, Wanda Skaggs, Melissa Nelson, please all stand, Barbara Pence, Christy Mann, Amanda Lambert, Evelyn Smith, Cassie Duncan, Kathy Phillips, Carolee Ford, Hope Hankins, Jan Owen, my mom Carolyn Basil, Ann Broadwater, Rita Johnson, Karen Powell, Louis Nally, Ron Skaggs, Lee Danner. Listen, we don't do what we do. We don't become one of the best touchdown clubs in America without these folks. Let's give them a round of applause. They give their time every week. And, of course, let's give a big round of applause for their fearless leader, our executive director, Debbie Wyman. Where's Debbie? Give it up for Debbie. He does an outstanding job. All right, this time, Chris Kane. Come on up and let's meet our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week. He's a good one.
Basil's on one today. Education be darned, and they want profit sharing from Simmons Bank. Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's please welcome our Arkansas Preps Player of the Week. He's a senior wide receiver and outside linebacker from Heber Springs. And 2 weeks ago, listen to these numbers. And a 41-0 win over Riverview, 4 carries for 163 yards. That's a 40-yard average per carry with 2 touchdowns. He also summoned his inner Joe Adams, 2 punt returns for a touchdown in the same game, and then had an interception and fumble recovery. He was all over the field. He was outstanding. He had a receiving touchdown this past week and in the week before. He's committed to UCA as a decathlete, but he also hopefully will find his way on the field, maybe catching Hail Mary touchdown passes like this past weekend for Coach Brown and that squad. Please give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for Parker Brown. appreciate it. Congratulations. I just want to mention his parents, Bill and Kathy, are both here. Thank you guys for driving up or down from Heber Springs, and also his head coach, Van Pascal. Thank you, Coach Pascal, for being here as well.
Thanks, Chris. So, it's really great, by the way. R.J. Hawk has been a guy that stepped up and wants to be a big helper and has been a big helper of the Touchdown Club for the last few years. And how about Chris Kane? He's with Delta Solar. That's his new gig. He used to be with Channel 7, but he's been all in and helping with the Touchdown Club, social media, all the things. He's going to help us with all of our awards. And I think behind the scenes, you haven't seen all the work he's doing. Let's give it up for Chris Kane, everybody. So I need to acknowledge real quick, we got some special guests, but remember we did, for those of you that were here for my birthday deal, which is very embarrassing. So Ryan, it was my 60th birthday. You're younger than me, I know, but 60th birthday, and so they had a lot of videos from all the former Broyles Award winners and different things, and it was very humbling and embarrassing, but I want to give a recognition for the guy who made a lot of those calls to get all those coaches, even the guys like Kirby Smart, who's mad at me because his guys have not won the last couple of years. But let's give a round of applause to Jeff Hildebrand. Thank you, Jeff, for what you did. He's been the chairman of the Broyles Award for over a decade now. And I mentioned that Ryan McGee has agreed to be a voter on the Broyles Award. So we continue each year to add guys and ladies that we feel are the best in the nation in being able to evaluate who the best assistant coach in America is. But I don't know if you know this, but we have started a high school Broyles Award. So we are recognizing the top high school assistant coach in each state in America. And I think we're over 30. We'll find it here in a second. We're over 30 states. And guess what they do? They all want to come into Little Rock to be a part of the College Broyles Award. So how cool is that? So at this time, we want to recognize, I think that's worth a round of applause. Exactly right. At this time, I want to recognize Michael Carter, who's the president of the Arkansas Football Coaches. Where's Michael at? There you are, Michael. Good to see you right there. And then I want to bring up Molly Harrell, who is a granddaughter of Coach Broyles, and her husband, Clayton Harrell, who's in charge of the High School Broyles Award, and the winner of the 2023 Broyles Award. He's been a head coach. Matter of fact, I think he was in 8 or 9 state championships, but now he's the assistant coach. He's a defensive coordinator under his brother, Brad Bolding, at Parkview High School. And, of course, you saw what they did. They snapped the Bryant winning streak this year. But the winner is Bobby Bolding of the 2023 High School Broyles Award for the state of Arkansas. Let's give him a round of applause. And Molly Harrell at this point.
We are very excited to get to honor Coach Bolding today. Like David said, a few years back we decided to expand into the high school. Of all the coaches my grandpa could have picked to be on the trophy with him, he picked Wilson Matthews, who was a high school coach here in Little Rock. And so it was a natural fit for us, and it's really special for us today. We're in 33 states. Next year we'll be in 40, so we're growing very fast. But just honored today to be able to recognize Coach Bolding, who's from Parkview here in Little Rock. So we've got some full Little Rock ties here today. So anyway, just wanted to give another round of applause to him, and thank you guys for having us.
And so you remember, I think it was the Peyton Manning week that we announced that this will be the last year we do it in Little Rock, and we're moving to Oaklawn, and we're really excited about doing that. And I think most likely we're going to go from a luncheon to a nighttime event because of the 12-team playoff. And it changes what we're going to do. There's a good chance because of that we'll do it in February during the height of the racing season at Oaklawn. And so a lot of cool things to bring in coaches. I think you think about that in February. You know who can come? Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. I think those coaches are the type of coaches that will come in for that event to honor the Broyles, because right now you can't do that in December. We like for this one coming up in a couple of weeks, they're in the middle of trying to get ready for recruiting, so they can't do it. But I think the future for the Broyles Award is at an exciting point. So Molly and Clayton, we appreciate your effort. And Bobby, you just keep doing it, man. You and your brother just keep doing it. You're great coaches, and your dad's a great guy. We appreciate you being here today. And Michael, thank you for all your effort too. All right, for his last weekend recap of the year, give it up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David. All right, we're going to finish strong. This first game I'm going to go through real fast, all right? David, I did the research, by the way, and I'm not trying to make us feel guilty or anything, but I was thinking, I feel like I've been here before. Arkansas has now lost 7 or more games in 9 different seasons since we founded this club. So we'll keep plugging. Thanks for showing up every Monday. I'm going to make it fast. Auburn 48. It's like taking medicine real fast. Auburn 48, Arkansas 10. 75-yard Tiger touchdown drive to start the game. First Arkansas punt, then returned 74 yards for a score. And it was actually downhill after that. So third consecutive home loss in Fayetteville. Hogs are 3-7, 1-6. Second worst loss as far as the points of the Pitman era. Auburn now leads the overall series 20-12-1. By the way, with the SEC doing away with divisions, this was the last Western Division game for Arkansas. They finish as an SEC West member with a Western Division record of 68-97-2. They are 34-51 against the East since joining the SEC, and one East game to go, of course, the closer against Missouri. Looking through the stats, I tried to find something positive. I couldn't, any category. Arkansas outgained. I tried. 517 to 255. Time of possession, Auburn, 38-15 to 21-45, a 17-minute difference. So enough of that. We're moving on. Yes. And we're going to talk about a Hail Mary in Conway. How about that? That's much better. UCA 27, Eastern Kentucky 24, and this was truly amazing, the whole way that everything played out. Now, I want you to consider all of this. First of all, Eastern Kentucky scores to go ahead with only 24 seconds remaining in the game. They had gone 99 yards in 49 seconds on that scoring drive. So it's over, right? Kick return. Clock's down to 19 seconds. A 37-yard completion on the first play after the kick return for UCA. But then 2 straight incompletions. That brings the clock down to 3 seconds. Will McElvain hurls it into the end zone. It goes off the hands of one receiver, falls in the hands of another receiver at the 2. He dives into the end zone. Game over. Touchdown. The Bears are 7-3 overall, 4-1 in conference. Can wrap up a conference title and a playoff bid with a win at Austin Peay on Saturday. What's that? Yeah, I was going to say, Chris and I have talked about it. He gets to go and hear one of the greatest cheers in college football, "Let's go P." So they will be chanting that. Yeah, they do chant that up there. All right. ASU loses 21-14 at South Alabama to fall to 5-5. They're 3-3 in conference. South Al is also 5-5, 3-3. So ASU can still qualify for a bowl game, winning one of their last 2 games. They are home in Jonesboro on Saturday against my wife's alma mater and Wes Moore's alma mater, Texas State. So I plan to be in Jonesboro to try to get the Red Wolves into a bowl game. UAPB falls to 1-9, 0-7 in the SWAC, 43-14 Friday night loss to Grambling. Now, there is, as we've been stressing all year long, a lot of good college football being played in Arkansas. And that's the thing. We are a touchdown club, not just a one-team club. So consider that 4 of our college teams in the state have 9 or more victories, David. 4 teams with 9 or more victories. I can't remember that. Harding finishes 11-0, a 56-0 road victory at 5-6 Arkansas Tech. Harding led that game 42-0 at halftime. And again, I'm telling you, keep an eye on the Bisons. They could win a Division II national championship. Meanwhile, Henderson makes the playoffs. 31-27 win over Ouachita. Great atmosphere as always for the Battle of the Ravine. Both of those teams finished the regular season 9-2. Ouachita comes in ranked number 10 in the country. Henderson breaks, though, a 6-game losing streak in the Battle of the Ravine. After all these years, that series is so close. It's Ouachita 46, Henderson 44, 6 ties. It was the 96th Battle of the Ravine. Henderson has a great quarterback, sophomore out of Bentonville, Andrew Edwards. He was 21 of 29 passing, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Reddy's play at Central Missouri. If they win, they get Harding again in Searcy the following Saturday. So they have to win. If they do, a rematch of that game, and that's the closest by far anybody has played Harding, was when Henderson lost to them. So hopefully the Reddies can get it done Saturday, and we'll get a rematch on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. SAU also 9-2, 60-17 over UAM. Boll Weevils are 2-9. They started the season 2-0. Their great quarterback got hurt, and they finished with 9 straight losses. Division III, Hendricks finishes 3-7, a 56-7 loss to Trinity. Lyon finishes 5-5, a 27-10 loss to Centenary. Now, on to the SEC. I thought Georgia Ole Miss would be close. Shows what I know. Georgia 52, Ole Miss 17. Dogs go to 10-0, 7-0. Rebels drop to 8-2 and 5-2. Georgia scores touchdowns on its first 4 possessions, and it's not even in question after that. 27th consecutive victory for the Bulldogs. Missouri is very good this year, and the Razorbacks still have to see them. 36-7 over Tennessee. Tigers are 8-2 and 4-2. Volunteers dropped to 7-3 and 3-3. Tennessee, get this, had outscored Missouri 128-48 in the previous 2 games between those 2 teams. This one went totally the other way. Was not close. Alabama 49-21 over Kentucky. So Bama's now 9-1, 7-0. Kentucky's 6-4, 3-4 in the conference. Jalen Milroe, what a game. 3 touchdowns rushing, 3 touchdowns passing. LSU 52-35 over Florida. LSU 7-3 and 5-2. Florida falls to 5-5 and 3-4. And Utah, I mentioned Milroe. This is even better stats. You talk about stats. Jaden Daniels accounted for, get this, 606 total yards in that game. 372 passing, 234 rushing, 5 touchdowns. He is the first player in FBS football to ever gain more than 350 yards passing and more than 200 yards rushing in the same game. Incredible performance by Daniels. South Carolina beats Vanderbilt 47-6. Gamecocks are 4-6, 2-5. Vandy falls to 2-9, 0-7. And in the game David mentioned, the game where it was so bad both head coaches lost their head. Texas A&M 51-10 over Mississippi State. I love doing research, but I hadn't found a game where a coach won a game by more than 40 points and got fired the next day. But Aggies will be Aggies. We all know that. First for the Aggies, they won't first. So Aggies are 6-4, 4-3. Bulldogs, of course, fire their coach 4-6, 1-6. Now, there's not a lot to choose from as we near the end of the season. We say, get out and see a college football game. We got 2 of them. I mentioned Texas State at ASU. That's where I plan to be. Also, though, got a game in Fayetteville. Florida International at Arkansas. Non-conference game at night in the second half of November. Close sources tell me in Fayetteville there's some seats still available to that game. So if you wish to get up, college football in Fayetteville and Jonesboro, get out and see a college football game, everybody. Thank you.
Give me your pad. So just to show you what Rex, Ryan, this is Ron, this is what Rex does. So look at it. Boom.
Sunday afternoon. Oh, yeah.
Boom. So here's the deal. I think when Rex and I are gone from this beloved earth, that Chris Kane, we should have a stack of Rex's yellow pads from the years of him doing that. Somewhere on stage, right? Give it for Rex Nelson and all the work he puts into this. Rex will have a stack of yellow pads for the last 20 years, and I have all my kids behind me in bronze that will continue to live on. Ryan, I'm going to challenge Ryan real quick. This guy does amazing stories. Nobody's a better storyteller than Ryan. I want you to look into the Battle of the Ravine, where one school walks across the street to play at another college. I think it's a very interesting story. So I would love to see that. It's one of the most unique. I hate it for you. I see Shane Broadway wearing his Henderson State red, but it's a really unique deal. 96 years?
This was the 96.
Yes. So very, very cool. Also, too, this is why we work towards the end of the year, is to present all these awards. And so all these awards behind me. So your support makes the difference in giving these awards. Next week, David Cutcliffe, I need to mention, will be on Tuesday. Not Monday, Tuesday. So you're going to see some of the most amazing kids. You'll be so inspired if you would be here for that. Also, I just found out that Ken Turner, one of the great Razorback coaches of all time, fell and broke his hip recently. He's at the Hickory Heights Rehab in Little Rock. He is taking visitors. So when I played at Arkansas, Ron, he coached 3 All-Americans with me. And Bruce, I know you know how good of a coach Coach Turner was. So if you get a chance to go by and see him, I got a chance to be with Dean Weber in Fayetteville. Dean's not doing good either. So say a prayer. If you got Dean's number, pop him a text and let him know that you're thinking about him. All right, we're really thrilled to have our guest speaker here. He's got so many stories. We want to dive right into it. Let's see what Steve Sullivan has to say about Ryan McGee.
Some of you may know Ryan McGee from the SEC Network show, Marty and McGee.
Came back as an assistant coach at VMI. Now he's the head coach at his alma mater. I mean, he's living the dream, son.
My favorite episode featured the one and only John Daly.
John, why don't you start us with the Hillbilly headlines?
Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm drunk.
That's my fault. Ryan is also a skilled writer and an accomplished author of several sports books. ESPN and the SEC Network have used his storytelling expertise on many of their special segments.
Wins, losses, downs, ups, even ups that became downs. That kick is no good! Tennessee wins!
Please welcome one of the sports media's most versatile talents, Ryan McGee.
All right. Great to have you, Ryan. Thanks so much. You're a busy guy. We really appreciate you squeezing us in.
I appreciate that. And by the way, I covered a lot of NASCAR over the years. I know Mark Martin's from just down the road. You read those sponsors better than any driver ever did in the history of Victory Lane. All you did, everything other than thanking the boys back at the shop. And the other part was, I love Rex's stats, but as a Tennessee alum and as a lot of Arkansas fans, are all that first 2 pages you read, I don't know if one of those sponsors was a dental group. That was like a root canal. So I appreciate the research, but dang, man.
So I have to acknowledge, only because Jessica, my girlfriend, bought me a Captain American shield because she thought I was about Captain America, maybe in her eyes, don't know why, but I know we need to acknowledge. So you got Captain America on your lapel,
Yep.
your ring, Captain America, and Captain America on your tie,
I got the
and your
socks
socks.
too, yeah.
So what's the scoop on Captain America?
No, I was a huge I'm a Marvel Star Wars guy. Everybody knows me, and so even like when you see me, when Marty and I are doing the show on Saturdays in the fall on the road, clearly when we're doing the show in the studio, rest of the year we barely get dressed. I mean, we have on pajamas, but when we're on the road, like last weekend, everything I wore was C-3PO from Star Wars. So here's a little thing about Marty. Marty has a tailor, right? Makes his suits. This came from the Men's Warehouse. Nike sends Marty shoes. I bought these myself. And so Marty ensembles are put together by him. I put mine together as a nerd to see the Star Wars or Marvels.
Well, you were telling a story. You actually had an emotional moment.
Yeah.
Going to Disney to see the. I mean, this is serious. You had an emotional moment seeing the Star Wars ride or what park, whatever it is
the
at
Galaxy's
Disney.
Edge. So if you haven't been to Disney World or Disneyland, they have this whole Star Wars themed land now. And my wife, without me knowing it, recorded me walking into Galaxy's Edge, and the Millennium Falcon is sitting there. And I started crying. And she recorded the whole thing. But what I've said was, imagine if your whole life you've always wanted to go to a game in Fayetteville, right? You've always wanted to go see the Razorbacks live and in person. When you finally get to go, it's hard for your brain to process that it's actually I grew up a Boston Red Sox fan because my first T-ball team when I was 5 years old were the Red Sox. The first time I went to Fenway Park, it was the same feeling. Like your whole life you've seen this in pictures and on TV and whatever else, and then when you see it in person. So yeah, I stood in front of the Millennium Falcon and cried, and there's a video of it and the whole thing. So I love it. I own that.
Listen, so just full disclosure, I've watched Infinity War, Marvel Infinity War movie. Probably 100+ times.
Oh yeah, there's no question. Well, my wife makes fun of me because she'll just with Disney Plus. My wife will come in and she'll go, "Are you really watching Empire Strikes Back again?" I go, "Yeah." "Don't you know all the words?" I go, "Yeah, but that's fine. It's like a blanket. Right? It's like my comfort food."
So let's dive in real quick. Let's talk about the big news here. Obviously, Sam Pitman. What's happening, Matt? If you could, this was obviously from this weekend.
Great picture, by the way.
That's what he was doing a lot of Saturday. So I know that you're very close. You've had a chance to, well, not very close, but you've had a chance, you and Marty, to have Sam on quite a bit. Your thoughts about Sam and about what's happening with the program right now?
Well, I mean, I think everyone knows where it's going, and I think that Sam knows where it's going. My big thing is I want him to get the exit that he deserves. I understand this season has been a disappointment. There's no question about it. And this just happens. Years just they go awry. Again, I'm a Tennessee alum. We had 15 of them, right, until recently. So I get it. But I think that everyone who supports, Woo Pig needs to appreciate what he did. And this is coming, by the way, I'm infamous in certain areas of Arkansas because you're talking about movies. You see movie posters that have the big pop-out quotes from the critics, a thrill ride or whatever else. My pop-out quote was, "Chad Morris is the greatest off-season hire of the off-season." That was me. Literally, it's like on a billboard somewhere. People send me pictures of it. Ryan McGee, ESPN. So we don't all hit home runs, right? But what Sam did to right that ship. And I'm not just talking about winning games. I'm talking about just changing the pride, right? Restoring the pride to the program. And so however it ends, and I think we all agree it probably is going to, and that includes Sam, I want to make sure that Sam gets the right handshake that he deserves going out the door. Whether it happens today or next week or next year, he deserves that.
Yeah, so the reality is, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion, some people thought maybe something would happen yesterday, something would happen today. I mean, there's a possibility. You saw the ballot with Jimbo Fisher at 75. Maybe Hunter Yurchek has Booster saying we don't want to pay $16 million, and
right.
so A&M is different than Arkansas. We don't have the bank that the A&M has. So he may be on with another year and have another chance.
Well, and if he does, and I hope he does, I want to make sure I'm clear on that because Marty and I have been really fortunate to do this show for many years. But the last several years we've done where I met you at SEC Media Days. And we do these talking season specials where we interview all 14, soon to be 16 head coaches in the conference. No one has been better than Sam. And he is who he is. All I want from a human being is just be who you are. Just be you. Don't be fake. Just be who you are. And all that, the turn up the jukebox and the drinking the beer, that's who he is. That's who he's been since that one of my favorite pictures of all time is him in some alumni game at Pittsburgh State, and he's literally sitting on the bench with a cooler, like knocking down like a Coors Banquet, right? Because that's just who he is. And so, and if he's given, if there is another year, no one's going to work harder than he is. And you can't question his intent. You can't question his work ethic. The result isn't what you want sometimes, but and honestly, I hope he sticks around just selfishly as a media member because he's just a good person. So if he's given the chance, I can't tell you what the win-loss record is going to be, but I can tell you nobody's going to outwork Sam Pitman.
One of the reasons I reached out to Ryan about being a Broyles Award voter is because of your relationship with Johnny Majors. So I was telling Ryan when I started the Broyles Award back 28 years ago, I told Coach Broyles we need to have really a salty, a really exquisite, top-of-the-line selection committee. So I gave him the names: Johnny Majors, Vince Dooley, Bo Schembechler, Darrell Royal, and Coach Broyles said yes. And so I didn't know the story with you and Coach Majors. And this is obviously, look at there, that's a great picture.
Yeah.
Obviously later stages in both of their lives. So for those who don't know about your relationship with Johnny Majors, share that if you could.
So I went to Tennessee. Went there by my sophomore year. I landed a job on the film crew, so I'm shooting. I'm practice every day. I worked on the Johnny Majors TV show. Worked on a show we called Big Orange Sunday in the spring that covered all the spring sports. But I got lucky just by luck of the draw. Folks that don't know, when you go to the practice field, there's a couple of different fields, and typically defense is over here, and special teams over here, and offense over here. I was assigned to the offensive tower, the tower overlooking the offensive field. That's where Coach Majors hung out all the time. And so every day at practice for a couple of seasons, it was me and one of the equipment guys and Johnny Majors. And you got to understand now, I mean, this is in the late 80s, early 90s. Tennessee's 11-1. My first year was I think one of the most underrated games of all time was the Cotton Bowl with Coach Hatfield and Arkansas and Tennessee in that game. A cold day that day in Dallas. But you got to understand, so I had to get to work every day. I had to cross Johnny Majors Boulevard. I would walk into the lobby of the building, and there was Coach Majors' frame number 45 jersey. You get to the top of the stairs, and there's a portrait of Coach Majors. Coach Majors' office is down the hallway. And this is the guy that every single day at practice, no one's bigger than he is. And he's asking me, how'd you do on your math tests? Are you still dating that girl from Gallatin? What game is your dad refereeing this weekend? I mean, every day. And in the middle of all of that, he would also tell me stories about back in the day. And he could not go more than about 20 minutes without bringing up Frank Broyles and Kenny Hatfield. Kenny Hatfield was the greatest kick returner I ever had. Greatest kick returner I ever had. That's what he'd say, maybe with a few more bad words sprinkled in. And he loved Coach Broyles so much. And so after 2.5 seasons of being on the tower with Coach, and he's telling stories about being on the staff, the 64, 65, 66, 67, I mean, legendary Arkansas teams, and him on the staff, and and Jimmy Johnson, who he didn't think as highly of as a player as he did Kenny Hatfield. But Coach Majors would tell me a lot of stories that I'm going to take to my grave. And he also told me a lot of stories that I've told over the years. But first and foremost, his love for Frank Broyles was so obvious. And then, what was unfortunately Coach Majors' last year at Tennessee, Arkansas rolled into town, and that was the year that Danny Ford wasn't the head coach, but he actually kind of was the head coach. And my dad, and we'll get into this, was an ACC referee, and I'd known Danny Ford since I was a kid. And I'll never forget, I was on the video crew again, we're in the end zone, and Arkansas was lining up for like a 47-yard field goal, and it's a terrible day. And I remember the guy I was working with said, he can't make this field goal. And I look down there, and I see Danny Ford, and he is in his classic Clemson crouch on the sideline, and he's put in a red man plug, and he starts fiddling with the grass, and I go, we are going to lose this game. And sure enough, they made the field goal. But I met Frank Broyles that day. Coach Majors introduced me to Coach Broyles on the sideline that day before the game, and it was a thrill. Because for me, I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s. Frank Broyles was the guy on TV, right? And so it was a thrill to meet him, and knowing how much he meant to Coach Majors made him mean a lot to me.
Yeah, Johnny Majors, I so regret this. Where's Molly at? I told myself I was going to do this. I think I might even have told you, I wanted to get over to Knoxville and get a camera and say, start filming and just let him talk, because he was such a historian all the way back to General Neyland. He could tell stories, and I was obviously in charge of running the funeral that day for Coach Broyles, and so I spent about an hour with him, and he was telling stories about the guy on the statue here, Wilson Matthews, with all the language. He was like, Coach Broyles didn't cuss, but Wilson Matthews sure did.
So did Johnny Majors. so Coach Majors, you talking about telling the stories. So for all of the venom that you hear when people talk about Lane Kiffin's 1 year at Tennessee, let me tell you what Lane Kiffin did. And this goes back to his father, Monty. who was a coach at NC State. Lane Kiffin and I used to play Nerf football together at NC State practices because my dad was an ACC ref and worked state scrimmages, and I grew up in Raleigh. Anyway, but let me tell you what Lane Kiffin did. Lane Kiffin and Monty Kiffin called Johnny Majors, who still was very bitter, and rightfully so, and was still angry at his alma mater, and they said, Coach Majors, you have a key to this building. You have a desk. You come and go as much as you want. And so for the first time since he was pushed out, 15 years earlier, Coach Majors felt like he was welcome back on his own campus and on the street, with his name on it. And so Coach Majors would come into the film office, and the guys I worked with as a student all still worked in the film office. And you go see Coach Majors, and he's in there watching film. And you think he's watching film of Tennessee's latest game. No, he's watching himself play back in 1956. Damn it, McGee! I should have won the Heisman. I'm like, I know, Coach.
But he was Heisman runner-up.
He was. And I'll tell you a story about that. So Paul Hornung won the Heisman that year playing for Notre Dame. I think won 1 or 2 games. And Paul Hornung used to, some of y'all remember this, he used to host a syndicated preseason college football special. And as members of the video crew, Paul Hornung comes in, we're going to help him, do this interview with Coach Majors. Because Tennessee was his preseason number 1 that year. So we go in Coach Majors' office, we set up the cameras and the lights and stuff, and you could tell Hornung's ready. And Paul Hornung sat down and he goes, all right, Johnny Majors, first and foremost, who should have won the Heisman in 1956? And Johnny Majors goes, Jimmy Brown. Next question. It was a perfect response because they probably should have. But let me tell you about Johnny Majors. Here's all you knew about Coach. He loved Arkansas so much, he loved Kenny Hatfield so much, he loved his time here so much. But when Coach Majors passed away, which was just a few years ago, this is how we should all go. He had moved back to Knoxville, and for those who don't know, the Tennessee River runs along there with the Vol Navy and all that, but it also runs along through town. There's a lot of beautiful homes that look over the river. When Coach Majors passed, he was sitting on the back deck, watching the sunset, having a bourbon, and just went. Man, we should all get to go like that, right? And he deserved that.
Yeah, what a legendary coach. And one of the reasons we had the Broyles Award, Johnny Majors, Barry Switzer, Joe Gibbs, and so forth. So, again, thank you for being a voter, a future voter.
Well, Joe Gibbs, too. Again, covering NASCAR.
Yeah, that's right. Another connection.
I know Coach Gibbs. I was a Washington fan growing up. And Coach Gibbs is no one. He can't go more than about 20 minutes without bringing up Frank Broyles. He'd tell a Frank Broyles story and start to walk away and then turn back around to tell you another Frank Broyles story.
Yeah, I think we need to get – would you like to have Joe Gibbs as a speaker at the Touchdown Club?
He would do it in a heartbeat.
All right, Ron, let's make it happen. You're the NASCAR guy. So let's talk about your show. Last year we had Marty Smith.
I'm so sorry.
So I love this picture.
Look at that hair. Isn't that amazing?
I love this picture. So what's it like working with Marty and his energy that maybe nobody on the planet has the level of energy he has?
I'll go back to something I said a minute ago. All I will require from another human being is to be yourself and be genuine. And, when I started in the business, I was a producer, a television producer. And I worked with a lot of on-air talent, and we see this with a lot of athletes too, where the person they are up on stage or on camera is not the person that they are, not saying it's a bad thing, but there's an energy level. Marty is like that from the time he wakes up until he goes to bed. I swear, I think when he goes to sleep, he just freezes and falls into the bed and goes to sleep. And then the next morning he pops up and he goes, right? And so he is the genuine article. And again, that's all I can ask for. And again, as a television producer, the most difficult part of the job is you take really, really talented people and you put them all on a set together, on a desk together, and a lot of times it doesn't work. Most of the time it doesn't work. We're friends. We've been friends for 20 years. We don't remember the first time we met. We know it was at a racetrack when we both covered NASCAR full time, probably South Boston or Martinsville back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he was just out of Radford and I was just out of Tennessee, and he had frosted tips, right? And there's a great – Google Marty Smith and Dale Earnhardt Jr., you'll get 2 things. Number 1 would be Dale Jr. and Marty pounding beers on the front stretch after Dale Jr.'s last race at the end of the season at Homestead, and the other picture is a picture from the early 2000s of both of them with their M&M frosted tips. I'm glad to say there's no pictures of me like that, thank God. But he's just a genuine article, and we're just friends. I mean, because I hear you on the air with like Justin. Justin Moore, you guys are friends, and I can tell that when I listen to you. And with Marty and myself, we're just friends. We just can't believe they pay us to do it. We legit, when we're done with the show on a Saturday morning, particularly, when we're in the fall, we do the show for an hour and they do SEC Nation on the road. The other, 8 months out of the year, we're in the studio in Charlotte, the Wilderness Lodge Studios, and it's 3 hours. And we genuinely, when the show is over, we will walk out in the parking lot. He'll look at me and I'll look at him. We'll say the same thing. He'll say, "You think we're going to get to do it again next week?" I go, "We'll see." So it's just imagine getting to just talk with your buddies about whatever, sports and everything else. And that's what we get to do every week.
It's the closest thing to what we do on Morning Mayhem, I think, where we just talk about, it's barbershop radio. You guys cover so many topics. So this is one of my favorite promos you did. One summer you guys put together for every school, maybe whatever would work to promo that particular school. This is the Razorbacks with you and Marty here. Let's watch this.
Razorbacks! Woo! Yeah. God, that was awesome. No.
Yeah. All right, so I'll tell you a story about that. I'll tell you a story about that. So we're in this truck, right? And you probably saw the lawyers had a little thing at the bottom. No calling the hogs while you're driving, obviously, because we're not. So this is like a real movie truck. That truck was on a flatbed. And there's cameras, bolts all over the truck. We're on Jimbo Fisher's property, which I don't know if it's his property anymore or not. But we're on his property because we shot this. We needed land. We shot on his property outside of college. This is in the middle of June in College Station. There's no air conditioning in that truck. It was 1,000,000 degrees. But we got really nervous because, as y'all know, you better get the woo pig right. And so Marty and I are in this truck, and we got a little ear thing, and the director's in another truck, and he's watching us, and he's, "All right, we're going to do the Arkansas thing." Okay, great. This is the idea, fantastic. And I looked at Marty, and I go, "We got to get this thing right, dude. We cannot mess this up." He's like, "You're right." So Marty goes, "I got a guy." And he called Justin Moore. And so there is video somewhere, Marty still has it, of us in the truck, and you can hear Justin on the speakerphone walking us through to make sure we got it right. Because I knew how it went, but you know how it is, you don't want to mess it up. So literally, Justin, we had to find it. There's video of Justin going, "All right, now you do this, and you do your hands." And so we do it, and he's like, "No, McGee, that's too soon. Your woo is pitched too high. You don't go woo, you go woo." So it was, so Justin got the assist on that deal.
So you grew up in Rockingham, North Carolina.
Yep.
You grew up a NASCAR fan.
Yep.
You've written multiple books, Matt. If you could, just a couple of them here, if you could. That was one book.
Back in the day, right there. Yeah.
Another one is I love what you said. You said you're the champion at doing with.
I'm the with guy.
He's the with guy.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. with Ryan McGee. There at the bottom. But you know what? Damn New York Times bestseller. That's all I am.
So before we get to that, talk about NASCAR and what it means to you.
Well, and we'll talk about my dad coming up. That last book you saw there was Sidelines and Bloodlines, a book I wrote, my brother and I wrote, which, by the way, my brother texted me and reminded me he was he was a clerk here in Little Rock.
Is that right?
Yeah, he sent me Buzz Arnold.
He's deceased now, right?
That's what my brother
He's
said.
not deceased.
My brother said, but my brother was a clerk for Buzz Arnold here when he was right out of Yale Law School. My brother's a lot smarter than I am. I always tell him, the cover of that book, there's 3 McGees, and between the 3 of us, we have like 8 college degrees, and I barely have one of them. But I became a NASCAR fan. I was born in Rockingham, North Carolina, which was a racetrack there. Unfortunately, it's just sitting empty right now. Mark Martin loved that place. I saw Mark Martin win a handful of Busch Series races there. But growing up in the Carolinas, there's no way you couldn't be a NASCAR fan. And my dad, who's my hero, he's doing great, just turned 81 last week. And we'll talk about him coming up. I was texting with Dad, but my dad was in the Army in the 60s during the Vietnam War, did not go overseas, but was stateside. But one day he's scrubbing toilets at basic training with this guy from Wisconsin. And he's like, "Hey, I'm a race car driver." And Dad's like, "Yeah, okay. And you're scrubbing toilets with me, at Fort Benning." And he said, No, my name's Dave Marcus. I'm from Wisconsin. And, when I come to the Carolinas to race, I'm going to need pit crew guys. So my dad was the gas can man for Dave Marcus for at Darlington and Charlotte and Raleigh and Rockingham and all these places when Dave would come south. And Dave raced in NASCAR forever. It was a great guy. But anyway, that's how I became a NASCAR fan. I was a Richard Petty guy. I was from North Carolina. But I'll give you all a little secret. it's not really a secret anymore, but when I went to ESPN right out of college, I started as a production assistant, which is an entry-level job. You answer the phones, you cut highlights for SportsCenter, run a teleprompter, all that stuff. When I went to ESPN in the mid-'90s, the number of people at the worldwide leader in sports who sounded like me was one. No one else had a Southern accent. Reese Davis and I started right at the same time, but Reese is from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, doesn't sound like it. Stu Scott, who's from Greensboro, North Carolina at the time, was claiming to be from Brooklyn. But we had one other woman that worked in engineering who was from Greenville, South Carolina. I'm the only one that sounded like this. So Jeff Gordon, and I have told Jeff this, I owe my entire career to him, because right when I started is when Jeff Gordon just started destroying everyone, and NASCAR became cool to an entirely different audience. And so with this accent, and I'm from Rockingham, all of a sudden, Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, these guys, they start coming to me. Yep. And they're like, well, you're a NASCAR expert. I'm like, yeah. And the reality is I knew more than they did, but I didn't know as much as they thought I did. So I called all my buddies and said, send me everything you got. And so I would cram like I was getting ready for finals every Saturday night and go in and cut the highlights for SportsCenter, all the NASCAR races, IndyCar, all of it. And it got me moved back to North Carolina after a couple of really cold winters in Connecticut. And Marty and I say all the time, we owe everything. It's what we had Ryan Blaney, the new NASCAR champion, on our show on Saturday, and we always do everything we can to make crossover moves like that, because we still love it so much. I still go to Daytona. I think this year will be my 30th straight Daytona 500. I still go to Indianapolis for the Indy 500, and so I still get to the track when I can. But I don't really get a lot of calls, will you cover NASCAR? I call and say, I want to cover this because I still love it so much. And Mark Martin, son of this great state, and man, Mark was tough back in the day, man. Mark dressed me down. He knows the story. He dressed me down one time because he thought I asked a stupid question, and it was a stupid question. But y'all know Mark looks like he's made out of iron. And I'm like, he is going to kill me. And I've only been doing this job for about 3 weeks. But man, I love Mark. I cover so many of his wins.
And after this is over, you've got a flight to catch this afternoon, but you're going to go over to the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame because his car's over there. You just want to take a look at that,
Absolutely.
which I think is really cool.
I went to every year he'd do an open house at his car dealership and have fan day, and I came to that a couple times over in Batesville.
So you've written a lot of books, but I have to think this book right here is probably one of the most meaningful to you. Sidelines and Bloodlines, A Father, His Sons, and Our Life in College Football. That's your dad there in the middle.
Yep.
That's your brother there. So just tell everybody about what it was like to grow up with a father who, just an amazing guy.
Well, you learn how to cuss when your dad's a referee, because when you're sitting in the stands, that's what everybody's doing the whole game. You're yelling at your dad. So my brother and I would have a thing. So my dad, when I was a little guy, he was still officiating high school football in North Carolina. He started doing small college games and small college football, by the way, the Harlan Hill Award, the Cliff Harris Award. My dad was the president of Wingate University, and Wingate's had a lot of finalists for the Harlan Hill over the years. So FCS Division II football is always, Division III always have a special place in my heart. But Dad started off in small college football when I was a kid, and then eventually got the call from the Atlantic Coast Conference, from the ACC, in the early '80s. And eventually moved to the Big East when the Big East started playing football in 91, 92. In fact, he worked 2 Arkansas games. I want to qualify this by apologizing. Arkansas was 0-2 in those games, but he had the Missouri Cotton Bowl, which was like 2008. It was like his next to last.
That was bad.
By the way, I went back and looked. He had no flags in that game, so y'all just check that. And then he was here at Memorial Stadium once when the Big East first started. Miami came here. It was not the one we talked about in '87. This was like 91, 92.
Still probably was not good.
This was about. But Dad still talks about the officials' locker room at Memorial Stadium.
Small.
What he said is that you didn't walk into the room, you put the room on. But growing up with a father, and this is what we wrote in the book. Growing up with a father as an official is what you learn is, and this is how we start the book. You learn there's 3 teams on the field. You've got the 2 teams that are playing, and then that team of officials, now it's 8. When Dad first started, it was 5, and then it became 6, then it became 7. They prepare so hard, and they have day jobs. My dad was a college administrator. My dad worked at Furman University and Wingate University as a VP and then a president. And so he would work all week, and then he'd get on a plane on Friday afternoon to go work a game. But what it gave me was a window into the world that I love so much, because I love college football so much. And my first sideline credentials, I was 12 years old. We write it in the book. Dad had a game, it was a huge game. It was North Carolina at Virginia. This is in the 80s. I had just turned 13. I had a camera that Santa Claus had brought me the year before, and I was taking pictures on the sideline, and I got blown up. I mean, Barry Word was the running back. He scored a touchdown and won the game, and then the linebacker, Micah Moon, who missed on the tackle, hit me, and I might have weighed 80 pounds. And, I mean, it was a yard sale. Stuff flying everywhere. My clothes were ripped. And I hit that artificial turf, and they all ran over there. And I popped, it was good to be young, right? I popped straight up. I was like, this is the greatest thing of all time. But I remember, and then at halftime to take us up and give us a barbecue sandwich and a Pepsi and like a candy bar. And all right, go watch the game. I was like, and I realized everyone here is getting paid to do this. And so between the staffers and, and the coaches and, I was really drawn to the media members. I saw the cameras right next to me, the TV cameras and the photographers and the newspaper, the writers. I was like, this is what I want to do. And so that really was the window into the world. My goal, I was very forward. My goal when I was 12 years old was I want to figure out how to get paid to go to football games. And don't tell anyone, but they send checks to the house and I get to go to football games.
But your dad, one of the great things you talked about your dad, which I think is really fascinating. You watched your dad. He's 81 now.
Yeah.
But I remember I read an article that you wrote back about 15 years ago. You watched your dad work out every day, doing backward sprints. All his neighbors thought he was crazy. What was that guy doing?
So my dad was a downfield official. So he was a field judge, back judge, side judge. And so he's the one calling pass interference. He's downfield. And so you spend the whole game running backwards. And so my dad would be in the backyard doing wind sprints backwards. And all the neighbors are like, poor Jerry. Poor Jerry. The pressure got to him, But that's that. But again, I watched him study. We would go to the swimming pool in the summertime, and he's studying the rule book. During the weeknight, all the officials that lived in certain areas would get together and have they had to run a measure mile every year. I mean, and they did it because they love it. Because you don't get rich. At best, you become infamous because you have a call that makes people angry. And it's become so difficult now because the anonymity's gone. My dad's last game was the 09 BCS championship. It was Tim Tebow and Sam Bradford. I tell Tebow every Saturday, thank my dad because he had those 2 pass interference calls against Oklahoma. But what's changed since then, and it's really a problem, is the fact that, where did Dad start? He started doing JV. He started doing, when he was at East Carolina as a student, he started doing intramural games. Then he started doing JV football, middle school, junior high football, and worked his way up. It took him 20 years to get to Division I. And now people were throwing stuff at officials and trying to shoot them and, physically assault them in the parking lot. Wonder why you have guys working NFL games that the biggest game they ever worked was – they worked a couple of seasons in a non-Power 5 league, and now they're working, Rams Jets. And the reason is because the pipeline is drying up. And so you have to love it. You really have to love it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done it because he didn't get rich doing it.
A couple of quick pictures here. We'll wrap up here in a second. So this is that's your dad. That's Mike Schuler, right?
Mike Schuler, yeah.
And then of course my old coach is the next one here. Look at here. Hey, come on, Jerry. That's not good enough, Jerry. That's not a good call.
Yeah.
So your dad had a wall of screams, right? Wall of screams.
My dad in his house today, he has what we call the wall of screaming. And one of the funniest things is like Dad would work a game, and then the next morning go to the airport, and get the paper. And if there was a picture of him, signaling touchdown or whatever, anytime it was a downfield touchdown, Dad was in the play. We would call the newspaper, and you pay the photographer some money, they'd send you the actual picture. But a lot of those were him getting screamed at. And so there are so many pictures of Dad being screamed at by coaches that he literally has what we call the wall of screaming. And it's like 8 pictures hanging on the wall of him getting yelled at by a lot of Hall of Famers. Yeah, Lou Holtz in that picture. South Carolina was like 0-10 going into the Clemson game. They're already down like 4 touchdowns in the first half. And Dad walked over and Coach Holtz was like, Derry, I can't take you more bad news. But it was bad news. But it was just a really, really unique way to learn the game. And I feel like part of my job, listen, I'm not an idiot. I know people aren't going to like referees. But I think I can help them appreciate, what they do. I'll tell you a story real quick so over at War Memorial, Dad worked a game here. And back then I think they had either like 6 officials. And there was a legendary umpire, Rusty Spindell. And Rusty, the umpire is the guy focused on it right behind defensive on the line of scrimmage. and somebody dragged a tight end over the middle and just cleaned Rusty's clock. I mean, knocked him out cold. And Rusty always tells the story that he's laying on the ground on that turf, and he said the lights are going out. And he thought to himself, there's 50,000 people here today. There's 200 football players. No one here knows who I am or where I live except for Jerry McGee. So I know Jerry McGee is going to look out for me and make sure I'm okay. And then he went unconscious. And however long he was out, he said the next thing he remembers is the lights came on and he was laying there, and sure enough, the first thing he heard was my dad's voice. And I said to Rusty, I said, well, what did he say? And he said, all I heard your dad was saying was, y'all got to wake his ass up. We got to catch a flight at 4:30. So he was looking out for him, kind of.
Last thing before we go, you have another passion, and we'll close with this latest book, Welcome to the Circus of Baseball. So this was a book about minor league baseball, and you have a very big passion for that.
Yeah, so again, growing up in the Carolinas, I mean, what's like around here? We didn't have Major League Baseball. We didn't have the NFL. The Panthers didn't show up till I was an adult. And so at one point when I was a kid, we had 15 minor league teams in the Carolinas. So within a couple hours driving to my house. So I grew up collecting minor league ballparks. In fact, they told y'all I'm going to the museum. I'm also going to make them take me to the ballpark. I've not been to the Travelers ballpark yet. I went to the old one, haven't been to the new one. And so I love minor league baseball. My first job out of college. So I go to ESPN right out of – I graduated Tennessee, went straight to Bristol, had an interview. Bombed it. I mean, bombed it. They asked me a bunch of hockey questions. They started asking about the Seattle Seahawks. I'm like, dude, I'm from Rockingham. And so I had to wait a year before I finally started at ESPN. But in that year, I worked for the Asheville Tourist as a $100 a week intern. And that's what the book is about. And really, it's just a love letter to minor league baseball. And y'all have a couple of amazing ballparks here in the state of Arkansas. And what I've learned is, and talking to everybody about the Travelers, is that we had this cast of characters at McCormick Field in Asheville, North Carolina, the Asheville Tourists, and every minor league ballpark has that. Right. I was learning today about the guy that would slide down the hill. Hook slide on his cardboard. We had a hook slide. We had James the Mountain Man. James the Mountain Man we're in the mountains of North Carolina, right? So I mean, it's a hillbilly. Y'all know what they look like. And this guy showed up, and James the Mountain Man would show up, and he had no clothes on except for his overalls. And no shoes. He looked like the old Mountain Dew guy, right? You spill in the bottle. And James's job is he would go behind the wall during batting practice and collect baseballs for 25 cents a baseball. Well, this is literally a ballpark pressed up against the mountain, and there's kudzu and all this stuff. And he would come out of there with a bag full of baseballs that we would try to sneak back into, games because baseball's really expensive. But he'd also have about half a dozen animals. He'd have snakes. He'd have possums. One time he came out, and I said, damn, James, that snake is biting you. And there was a snake, and he just popped and pulled it off. He goes, well, thank you, and put it in the bag. And he'd take all his animals home and eat them. So our deal was that we paid James a quarter of baseball, and then you can eat whatever you keep. So, I mean, possums, squirrels, whatever. So there's no telling. If it was here, it'd be like a aardvark. He ate it all. So,
is he not a national treasure? Ryan McGee, everybody. Thanks for being here, Ryan. Great job.
So much fun.
Outstanding. Look at there.
Thank y'all so much.
He's doing pictures out. Don't forget, next Tuesday, David Cutcliffe.
Watch Marty McGee.